Going? I am going. Hey there, everybody. Stevie Amateur Historian. How y'all doing? I'm a little stuffed up, and this stuff that I'm using that usually works is taking its sweet time kicking in. So if you see me kind of go like suck a deep breath in, it's because I'm a little congested up here. Not sick, just congested. It's a thing that's happened since I started developing allergies like the rest of us. So, um, for today's video, I'm just covering a succession of things. It's all really stuff that I've decided I kind of want to talk about just in the last week, so I'm kind of combining it all into one thing. I don't plan on being on here too long, mostly just long enough to discuss the issues at hand, but I also want to give a couple of minutes for people, at least a few, to trickle their way in. Obviously, when this video is done, it will eventually, I know that when I do it on my iPhone like I'm doing now, it takes like 2 or 3 days before it'll let a live stream go live. It just takes forever to process it or whatever. I really don't know what the issue is. But, anywho, so let me just take a couple minutes to let a few people come in, and then we'll get into the real meat and potatoes of the amateur historian and just what I want to just cover. Again, just covering a succession of things. Some things are just, interesting that I want to talk about, and other stuff is just like stuff that's happening. So I guess to kill off about 3 minutes or so, to let a few more people get in, about the 5-minute mark, I'll start getting really into stuff. Let me just talk about the virus for a second. I'm a big college football fan, and it's Saturday, so I at least, follow, I see highlights and stuff like that. And the big game of the day was BYU against Coastal Carolina. Suddenly, Coastal Carolina is like a competitive, ranked football school. And when the game ended, they did a pan. Now, I didn't even know fans were being allowed to go to college football games. I mean, aside from maybe a few family members, you'll see like 4 or 5 people at various different parts of the stands in a massive stadium that's outside. Like, that's more safe than going to the store. So I understand letting a few people go. But at the end of the game, they did a pan across some fans that were there that looked like they were probably students at Coastal Carolina. At least like 30 to 40 people, and maybe 3 or 4 of them had a mask on. It was just this, and they were all sitting crammed together as a group. Who knows how many more people were around them that just didn't show up in the shot. And I'm like, this is why we have almost 200,000 cases a day now. Is people still, this became a big deal 9 months ago, and people still aren't paying attention. And case in point, I went to Big Lots the other night, like I know what you're gonna say, like, oh well, Steve, Big Lots, Big Lots is ghetto, dude. No, the Big Lots around the corner from here is really not that bad. But I understand, Big Lots is not exactly a bougie store you go to. But it's like half the distance that it would normally take me to go to Target. So if I just want to grab a snack or a drink or something real quick, mask on, go in there and be out real quick. Well, while I was standing in line, about 3 to 4 minutes, that's it, I saw 3 different women who are all, give me internet. Am I back? Okay, I'm sorry. This may end up ultimately being a futile effort. There's been the internet. I've had no issues on this phone. My laptop, the internet has been coming and going like crazy, but I haven't had any issues. By the way, you like the I just threw up some Christmas lights in the room. We're in a basement room. It's not that festive. Threw these up. It's kind of a polygraph machine type decor. I just kind of threw them around the room for the heck of it. Okay, hopefully you're still with me. I'm hoping you're still with me. I don't know if this isn't set up to, no, it's set up to take comments. I was gonna be like, I don't know if it's set up to take comments. Well, that answers that question. Thank you for commenting, just so I know the comments are working, because I figured if the comments aren't on, and for some reason that brief lapse I just had is going to completely ruin the whole live stream, I'm not going to know, because no one's going to be able to tell me. But thank you for showing that that is working. Anyway, to get that story quick and done, now that I just had a brief delay, the woman in front of me, up at the cashier, one of these people, she had her mask on, and every time she went to speak, she pulled her mask down to talk. And I'm like, what is the point? That's the whole point. The reason you have this here is to obstruct what comes out of your mouth, as much as to not take anything into your mouth or up into your nose. That's like putting on your seatbelt in your car to be safe and then driving your car off a cliff. It's like, what was the point of protecting yourself like that if you were just gonna kill yourself anyway? Like, it was insane. And I'm just standing there, just, are you kidding me? And as she's standing there finishing her thing, a woman and her husband come in. Again, both probably mid-60s. The husband has a mask on. The wife just had no mask on. She just walked in. And as she walked by me, I, leaned away. She wasn't quite within 6 feet of me, but I was like, I'm going to let you know that I'm pissed. And I literally just muttered under my breath, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously, are you fucking kidding me? And there was only one person working there. Literally, they had one person who was taking the line. Anything that happened, she had to deal with. And she was dealing with stuff up there. So I totally understand, like, her not seeing this woman come in without her mask on. And then, like, a minute later, another woman came in. This is another thing I really don't understand. These people that go into a business that has, they have the mask regulations. You want to come in here, you have to have a mask on. That means you have the mask on before you enter. These people, this woman walked in, got about 10 feet into the building, and then put her mask on. And I'm like, oh, great, so you coughed your COVID into the entryway that everyone has to walk through to get in there, and then put your mask on. I'm like, I'm sorry, if you're going to a store, like, especially if you have a car, when you pull into your spot and stop and turn your engine off, put the mask on, get out of your car, have it on ahead of time. Like, are we really in a position to screw around right now? A week from now, we're probably going to be at 250,000 people getting this stuff a day, and that's just people that are getting tested, not the people that are just staying home and saying, well, I think I got COVID, so I guess I'm just going to stay in bed for 2 weeks. It's astonishing. It's months, and it's not just the crazy anti-mask people. It's just, there's just people out there, they don't get it. Anyway, I got that off my chest, got a little bit into the live stream. And so before I start getting into my stuff, I'd like to say, I don't remember if I deleted this comment. If I didn't, I need to go delete it because I don't want this on my channel because it's offensive. Anyway, every so often you get, if you're a YouTuber, you get comments from people that are just mean-spirited. Some people just come on and say, I don't really like your stuff, and it's like, okay. But then there's just people that come on and get personal, and So I like to give a special thanks to a guy whose YouTube name is, I guess it's Chaz Bonner. Don't know this person from a hole in the wall. His picture looked like a really blurred, like, mugshot somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, so this guy commented earlier today on my the video I did about the 1980 MGM Grand Fire in Las Vegas. Me and my girlfriend were there not this last June, but June 2019. And I knew I really wanted to, if I had the chance, get some video inside the old MGM Grand, which is now Bally's. And I wanted to do a video about the fire. Did that, put it on my channel. The anniversary of that was just like 2 weeks ago, and the video actually got a big spike in views because people were obviously thinking about it. And when you think about stuff, you look for stuff about it. And, pretty much everybody who's watched that video has liked it and said that I did a pretty good job. And, I tried to be as factual as possible. Like, all the information I give in that video is based on, like, official reports. It's not even, like, newspaper articles and stuff. It's, like, official reports that, like, the fire department did and, like, the police reports and stuff like that. So I got the definitive stuff on it. So anyway, pretty much all the comments are nice, but Chaz Bonner, whoever this is, comes on today and leaves a comment. The comment is, simply put, I wrote it down. This 25-year-old wimp narrator says he vacationed in Vegas in 1980. Fucking, and then the R word. The R word that, we all know what the R word is. It's that word that we don't use. Fucking R word. That was the comment. So, first of all, I appreciate the fact that he thought I was 25. I mean, ooh, thank you. I just turned 35, like, what, a little over 2 weeks ago. So, thank you for complimenting how youthful I looked. Um, Wimp narrator, I'm a suburban white kid. I can see some people thinking I sound kind of wimpy, but the fact that he got mad because apparently, which I know I didn't, but according to him, I said somewhere in this video that he like thinks that I was implying that I was there when the fire happened. Cuz he says, you know, says he vacationed in Vegas in 1980. Well, the fire happened in 1980. So obviously he thinks that I implied that I was there when the fire happened. I was born in 85, so I wasn't there. So it was just a completely stupid, ignorant comment. And then he had the nerve to drop a hard R. So I just thought I would kind of briefly expose him for the. I'm sure he's just the bee's knees, whatever community he's living in. I'm sure everybody loves this guy. I'm sure he gets along with all the people, all the kids, everybody. Just like, wow. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I wanted to get that whole thing out of me, and I saw there was a few comments sprinkling in. Hi, everybody. Those of you that are here, thank you. I appreciate it. I recognize some familiar faces as pieces that are the core of my fandom. So, first thing I wanted to say next, just kind of I literally like I'm usually when I do a live stream it's like 3 hours of me playing Grand Theft Auto and just talking about stuff. I'm still covering stuff on my channel, but this like I actually like listed stuff out for this thing just so I knew that I would cover stuff. So the next thing is I am working on finishing a book that I just wrote. Nothing wild and crazy, something fairly simple, but I thought, while I'm trying to find ways to make more money in this realm using what I've gained, I decided to write a book that is based on some of the cases that I've covered in my Historic Murders of Portland videos. Now, people could say, oh, why are you writing? I'm like, you already talk about the stuff in your videos. Well, the videos, you have to kind of keep the videos succinct. A lot of those cases I could talk for 3 or 4 hours, but I wanted to keep it down to like, somewhere in that 10 to 30 minute range, depending on how much information there is to go over. And I just got a wild hair to, I went back and kind of glossed over some of the videos, and I noticed like, oh, I wish I would have mentioned this here. I wish I would have mentioned this there. So there's plenty of information that either isn't mentioned in those videos because I either didn't know it at the time or because I just missed it. And there's also, I also flesh out a lot more things. If there's something where this happened, I talk a little bit more about what does that mean? What is it? What is the implications of that in this case? And actually, as I did it, I ended up like finding information that I literally didn't have the first time I covered these cases. So I found new stuff. So in essence, the book is going to be probably around 90 to 100 pages. Now, I made it 13-point font instead of 12, not to pad the length of the book, but because just for some people, 12-point font's just a little, like 12-point font is, it's the primary font people go to because it's the most logical, but there's some people that's still a little too small for them. Maybe they don't have the best eyesight in the world. So I literally just bumped it up a little bit. Anyway, so my plan is to cover, I'm finishing it all up, but it's probably going to cover about 10 cases. And I specifically wanted to focus in on cases that there's really not a whole lot of information about. Cases where the only information I found about it was like 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 random newspaper articles. And then when the situation was resolved, it's like it just vanished. Every case I'm going to discuss in this book, I literally, if I do a Google, like deep Google search or anything like that, find absolutely no information about any of these cases. No local historians have written on it. They're just things that happened. They were big for like a week, and then they vanished. The only references I find to any of these cases I discuss are references back to the newspaper site that I use that shows the articles that I looked up. So even when I find that stuff in a Google search, it's just linking back to the information I already had. So that was another thing. You know, some people don't like videos. Some people like to read about stuff. I love reading stuff. I was a writer long before I was a video maker, filmmaker. And so I just thought this would be really interesting to people because they're cases that, unless you've really dug in, you know, the way I have, these are going to be cases in Portland that you've never heard of. And again, even if you've watched my videos, there's going to be more information in here. And I also include pictures, either pictures that I took or stills from my vlog, so that when I cover a certain case, you get to see these locations, you know, as they are today. I didn't include any old pictures because a lot of those are copyrighted. And I intend on selling this book. And I really just, it wasn't worth the drama of dealing with that. Again, this is something I've just poured a lot of energy into. And, you know, it's another way that I want to go by to, I lost track of my train of thought, but it's another thing I want to do to try to make money through what I'm doing. Now, that doesn't mean I'm just churning something out hoping people are going to spend a bunch of money. I'm spending a lot of time on this because, again, I've always been a writer. So I'm doing another thing that I love. So I'm finishing up the book, and I'm already starting a second one. There's a murder case from 1921. This guy named Harry, I still to this day do not know how to pronounce the last name. The last name is spelled Agee. So it could be a G, it could be Aji, it could be a Gi. I mean, I really don't know. And maybe that's a good reason why I shouldn't do a video on it, is because I might screw the name up. But as far as spelling goes, it's hard to screw that up, regardless of the pronunciation. Anyway, this guy was murdered in his bed. He had his throat slit while he was in the bed with his wife. This was in St. John's, 1921. And the wife claimed that she was awakened by the sounds of her husband after he'd had his throat cut, like gasping. And that she got up and she saw a man run out of their house. And then she ran outside and tried to chase him, but he got away. And it's one of these cases where suspicion fell on the wife very quickly, and that's all I'll really say about it. I obviously don't want to just, but it's another case where, like, I don't find anybody, and anybody's never really written about this, and yet I found a lot of newspaper articles from when this happened, a lot of them with detailed information about the case. So there's a lot to go over, and I still to this moment don't know who I think is responsible for the murder, but it's such an in-depth case that it lends itself to being its own thing. So I'm gonna write another, like, book that is going to be just that case. And I'm going to sell these books. I'm selling them in ebook form. I maybe somewhere down the line I can have them done in printed form, but I don't have, I'm not in a position right now to be printing out, investing the money to be printing out copies of stuff right now. So they're only going to be in ebook form for the foreseeable future. I don't have the time or the money right now to invest in printing that stuff out right now. Again, that could change down the road, but they're going to be sold as ebooks. I'm, you know, weighing my options about where to make it available. I've already got a website partially done that is literally being made just to sell these publications that I'm writing. And they're all going to be, I'm not going to, you know, churn this book out in 2 weeks and then be like, that'll be $30. Thank you. Like, obviously, in the end, I'm doing this as a method to make money, but I'm also doing it because I love it, and I'm not trying to rip people off. So while I'm charging for the books, I feel like my plan right now is to charge $8 for my Historic Murders of Portland book. That's $8 for a researched 100-page long book that delves into at least like 10 obscure murder cases. So I think that's reasonable. And the one that I do about the Harry, again, Agi murder, that will be probably a little bit cheaper because it'll probably be a little bit shorter and it focuses in on one thing. So I'm selling these for not a whole lot of money, and I'm fine with that. I don't want a bunch of people coming on here and being like, no, no, Steve, you're worth more than that. No, no, you're short selling yourself. No, just don't even worry about it. I've given this a lot of thought, and so I want to be able to make money off this, but I also want, not just like people that follow my channel that might be more inclined to buy a copy. I want any random person who stumbles onto this that thinks, oh, this looks interesting, to not see the price and go, oh, well, it did look interesting, but $35 for, and obviously, ebooks are usually a little bit more affordable, but I want this to be accessible to people every bit as much as I want to be able to make money off of it. So that, again, that book is about 80% done. I have to polish off a few chapters, go over it, make sure there's no spelling errors. I fortunately very rarely tend to have too many spelling errors, but make sure everything's formatted, make sure everything's set right, the page numbers are right, the table of contents matches with the rest of the book, all that stuff. So I'm getting very close to being done. I have a website that's pretty much set up and almost ready to go, and I've got one book almost done and another book that I just started. And this might become a thing I do where I write these little publications and sell them for a little bit here and there. And I know there's certain websites that you can sell. God, what's happening here? That you can like sell your ebooks through, and they make the process a little bit easier. And like some of them really scam you. Some of them take like 30% of the money you make. But there's other ones that it's like, they take 2 to 5%. But anyway, I'm looking into that. The book's not going to be out like tomorrow or anything. This is kind of a formal announcement that that's happening, and also letting you know that I'm already a good ways into it. And I'm excited about that side of things. And also considering the fact that I'm not going to be going out a whole lot over the next couple of months because of COVID. So there's not going to be a whole lot of exploration video. And I still have videos on my channel that haven't gone live yet. So it's not like nothing's going to come out for the next couple of months. I'm just not going to be doing a lot of outdoor exploration. Unless, like, me and the family choose to go on our own private thing and go visit some abandoned places, or go do something where we're not going to be in the vicinity of a bunch of other people. So that's one thing. However, in the process of doing this, I actually uncovered more information about other cases that I've covered. It's actually led me to, I've taken 2 videos down on my channel. One that I did a video about a woman named, it was a Historic Murders of Portland episode. It was a woman named Naomi Moss, who was murdered by her husband, Riley Moss, in, it was Willamette Heights Park. And when I did the video, it was a spur-of-the-moment thing. I saw a park was Portland Heights Park. And even at the time, I wasn't really certain which park it actually had happened at, because they didn't give an address. So I actually... and I couldn't find Willamette Heights Park doesn't exist anymore. Willamette Heights is right where Forest Park and McClay Park all bump into each other, so maybe Willamette Heights Park was a part of one of those at some time. Maybe it was just a park that existed that's no longer around. So I ended up, and I acknowledged, like, maybe it was this Willamette Heights Park, but it was a very, like, I'm in this area, I might as well talk about this case now. So I already admitted, like, this case is a little hazy in my mind, but I know the base details, and I ended up taking it down just because there was just enough that was inaccurate about it that it was like, why even bother having this video up? You're not in the right spot, and I think I mixed up where the husband ended up. And I write about this case in my book, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But yeah, there was a few things that I messed up. And another video is one of my favorite Historic Murders of Portland episodes to do. Was I did an episode called Bones Under the Dance Hall, which was in 1921. There was in the Old Town Albina area. It was on Albina Avenue, just north of Russell. There used to be a big dance hall, and now it's kind of like a parking lot, and some building is there. There's some business there. And some construction was being done on the place, and some workers in the basement were digging up the ground, and they ended up digging up bones from a woman and a few, I think they dug up like a few articles of clothing, like some socks and, excuse me, sneeze is coming. Nope, it went away. It was that close. And they found a ring that said from Billy to Vera. So it sparked this big thing, like, who is this woman? And when I initially researched this, the furthest I got was people started thinking that the victim in this case was a woman named Vera White, not Vanna White. I mixed that up when I was putting this video together. It was Vera White, who was a woman who had disappeared a couple years earlier, and since there was this ring that said Vera on it, it was kind of, and she lived in the area, and she apparently had gone to like a party that like the dance hall had been transformed into housing for some people, and she apparently went to a party there like around the time she disappeared. So she was from the area, she'd been right to that exact spot, and so there was a lot of reason for people to think that it was maybe Vera White, but they couldn't figure out who this Billy was. Like, she was either married or had a boyfriend, and his name wasn't Billy. They couldn't really find any Billy from her past. And in the process of just going back and reassessing things that I'd covered in the past on my channel, I discovered that they, because when I finished that video, it was just, people think it's this Vera White woman, but we don't know for absolute certain. So it was left a little bit in mystery. And then I found a couple articles that actually showed that this case actually had been resolved about a month after the articles, no, about 2 months after the articles I was reading were trailing off, because this was March 1921, and then suddenly May 1921, they figured out who it was, because this woman came forward who recognized the ring. And she said that this actually belonged to the sister of a woman named Mabel Phillips. And Vera had died, and I guess she either left the ring to Mabel or Mabel just took possession of it. And Mabel Phillips disappeared from California in 1914, some 7 years earlier. And so with that shift in the case, they were able to establish that these bones belong to this Mabel Phillips. Now, unfortunately, while that resolution, I found that resolution, and I took the video down because there was this big extra thing that really applies to the story. So I'm not permanently getting rid of it, and I'm hoping I still have the original video. I edited a lot of those videos on my girlfriend's computer because I didn't want to do too much on my Mac, because my Mac's really old. And a lot of my Historic Murders of Portland video, the raw video, is still on here. I don't know if that particular story is still here, because I really want to redo that video with this information added to fully complete it, but still use a lot of that original video leading up, because up until this story about Mabel Phillips came out, everybody still thought it was this Vera White woman. Now, it does also leave us hanging in the lurch, because people thought we had a resolution to what happened to this Vera White woman, but once it was shown that it was another person, there's still this lingering question of, well, what happened to this Vera White woman? She disappeared too, and if this isn't her, what happened to her? And I tried doing more research on her, and really after March 1921, at least in the Portland area, or in Oregon, I couldn't find any more information. And, you know, if I did a general search of, you know, a Vera White, like looking at all the newspapers in America, there was obviously had to be other Vera Whites around. How would I know any Vera White that I found in another state would be the same person? It would take months, you know, just going through and tracking over stuff, and I still might not find anything that definitively says, oh, well, Vera White actually just left and settled in New York, and she was discovered 7 years later. Wouldn't they still trace that back to Portland, the Albina area, in their article, which would in some way reference Oregon? So that is left unresolved. But it is interesting, because it was just this this revelation thing, and I'm considering possibly adding that to my book. I'm not certain. Buy the book when it comes out, and you'll know for certain then. But yeah, so it was really interesting to have this update to all these things from past videos where I thought I found everything that was to be found. And, these newspaper databases, over time, they'll add another newspaper. Probably every day they add a couple more newspapers, and every so often you get an edition of another paper that wasn't up there before, and all of a sudden you have more information out there about it. Which is really frustrating in cases like this, where when I initially researched them, I literally found everything I could find, and then I did my video, and then I come around later, and all of a sudden, boom, there's new information. Merry Christmas, by the way. And finally, hold on a second. I just realized I have to find this. Crap. Bear with me. I'm not gonna end the live stream. I just need to go grab my other iPhone and find this for you real quick, so that I can process on into the next section of my thing. So, if you need a bathroom break, if you need to go get a cup of coffee, if you've got something burning on the stove, here's your 90 seconds or whatever to go take care of that. I'll be right back. La, la, la. Should have known people would be coming down here. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm relocating. I'm almost done. I'm just relocating to the bedroom area with the historical posters on the purple wall. I don't know. It didn't look like when I came back, it looked like whatever was going on there wasn't going to end soon. And I forgot my notebook, which had, anyway, the last thing I wanted to discuss with you all had to do with, okay, this is what happens when you do live streams and there's like 5 other people in the house. I should have known something would happen, especially since it's classic Christmas time. I don't know. It looked like they were starting to go upstairs when I came in, and I really would rather not do it in here. This is live streams. There's no cutting. There's no editing. Sometimes everything goes astray. But anyway, as I've been trying to get to, this last little thing I wanted to discuss involves crimes where it's like essentially crimes where, like, we don't know if they actually happen, crimes without victims. I was on Reddit. Yes, I'm starting to become one of those people that periodically goes onto Reddit from time to time. And I don't know if it was a valid story, if this was like something that really happened, or if this was just somebody that was looking to get attention. Hopefully the internet keeps working with us in here. I haven't had many problems in here, so should be fine. But I found, and I was trying to find it again, and the problem is that it's on, I can't access it on my phone right now. But anyway, I started looking up interesting things on Reddit, thinking maybe there's something worth researching or something I could do a video on, just for fun. And some guy posted about how back in 2005, if you've looked up strange, odd, unsolved, whatever in relation to Portland, maybe you've stumbled onto this. Someone posted about saying it was 2005, possibly around November, that there was some story about some guys that were, and of course I'm pulling whatever information I can remember from my memory, but there were some guys out riding on their quads, and like somebody attacked them and like tied them to a tree and burned them alive. And do I want to say somebody said they like cut their arms out or something? I remember being tied to a tree and burned alive. And the guy was saying, like, I remember hearing about this, and I remember showing the news story to someone, and now it's like you can't find any information on it. Is it being suppressed? Why is nobody talking about this? Why can't you find any information about this anymore? And the guy got the usual replies from people. Some people implied it was probably a dream that they'd had, or that they were confusing it with some other event. And it kind of reminded me of these strange instances where there's like a crime, or at least someone claims there was a crime, but we don't. There ends up being like no like real proof of it. And that got me to thinking about a particular case that I did a video on. I don't think it got a lot of videos. It was Historic Murders of Portland episode, but it was a case where I don't know if a murder actually took place, but March 1928, this woman named Henrietta Nelson, on a whim, as it seems, sent a letter to the police in Los Angeles. I guess, I don't know if that was where she was living at the time, or if she felt that they had some connection to it. And she admitted that on Valentine's Day 1927, so a little more than a year earlier, she said that she had been with this guy named George Howard, and George Howard was kind of trailing this guy named Frederick Johnson. They apparently knew each other in the Seattle area, and Howard really had it out for Johnson. And he said that, and Henrietta Nelson said that she tracked Johnson along with this mysterious Howard guy to Portland. And while Johnson was walking down the Portland city streets, Howard grabbed him and pulled him into this alley next to the Circle Theater, which the Circle Theater was right in the middle of downtown. I believe it was on 4th. I believe it was on Southwest 4th, just off of Washington Street. I could be wrong. I'm just trying to remember that. But anyway, it was right there in the middle of downtown. I've seen pictures of the area. I know what it used to look like. There's just a big parking garage there now, like a lot of parts of Portland. So this letter gets to the police, and all of a sudden, they have like a murder on their hands. There's this murder that's been completely unaccounted for over a year, and she claimed that they dragged this guy into this alley next to the theater, and he was murdered there, and they ditched his body like in a sawmill. And authorities, they couldn't find any verification that any of this had actually happened. They couldn't find any remains at a mill. And one of the biggest issues, I think this may have even been addressed in a newspaper article, because I noticed it just looking at pictures of the block that the Circle Theater's on. The Circle was in the middle. There's no alleyway there. It's like buildings just connected, and Circle Theater's just kind of in the middle. There was no alley there there were no alleys in Portland. I mean, even to this day, there's not really anything that really constitutes as an alleyway in Portland. There might be some gaps between buildings, but as far as alleyways, the way that we traditionally think of them, there's not really any of those in downtown, and there wasn't any in the vicinity of the Circle Theater. So the story suffered from a plethora of issues and reason for the police and outsiders to think that this was a bunch of nonsense. Which then begs the question, why would this, like, if this Henrietta Nelson came out and said, I knew this guy, George Howard, who went and killed this guy, that's one thing, but she implicated herself as an accomplice. So why would you claim to being involved in a murder that either didn't occur or happened somewhere else, and magically you were there, but you get all the details wrong? It just didn't make any sense. And why would you implicate yourself and risk getting yourself into legal trouble by claiming to have been involved in that? So unless Henrietta Nelson was just, she had some mental defect, or she was unduly paranoid, I don't really know. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I bailed just in time. The room here in between our room and the bedroom, this is the quote movie room of the house, and it sounds like they're watching something in there. So I relocated just in time. But anyway, so yeah, that was really strange, and the police never found any verification that this case actually happened. And this is something that I considered for my book as well, which is kind of why I'm talking about it. And it was other stuff that I kind of, again, it's recent stuff. Remembering this case, it was sparked by me stumbling onto this Reddit post recently. And what's really interesting is completely unrelated to the Henrietta Nelson, George Howard, Frederick Johnson case. But I had to rewrite the notes down because I haven't looked at this stuff in so long. But in September 1926, so a little less than a year before this murder of Frederick Johnson, there was a guy who went by the name of George, I would say it's Varliska, maybe like Varlissa, Varlisca, I believe was his name. And he was a transient living on the streets of Cleveland, Ohio. So he's 2/3 of the way, more than 2/3 of the way to the other side of the country. And he ended up, he randomly told authorities one day that he was responsible for killing a guy named Michael Parch in Portland back in 1923. So Cleveland authorities contact Portland authorities. Hey, did you look into this George Varliska guy for any crimes? Was there a Michael Parch that got murdered in Portland? And the police, there was nothing. They had nothing on this George Varliska guy, but they actually presented a possible theory. I guess it kind of implies that this George Varliska guy, who again seemed to be raving about murders he probably hadn't committed while living as a transient on the streets of Cleveland, maybe he was just, mentally just gone. Because the local authorities thought that maybe he was this guy named George Vlisak, which those names are really close. And George Vlisak lived in Portland, and in November 1922, he ended up killing a guy with a butcher knife. But apparently this guy that got killed and these others, like, they tried to attack Vlisak, and Vlisak had to defend himself with what he had, and he had a butcher knife, and he ended up killing one of them. So he actually went before a grand jury and was found not guilty of murder. They deemed he was defending himself, and what happened happened. And so they felt that maybe this George Verliska was really this George Vlisak, who was all confused about this attack that happened in 1922 and claimed that he killed some guy in 1923. Now, he said the guy that he killed was named Michael Parch. I don't know if the guy that George Vlisak accidentally killed, that was his name, or he had a name that sounded similar to that. I only found like 2 very short articles about this particular case, and they didn't go into the details. And even when I tried to look up George Vlisak and this case in 1922 newspapers, I couldn't find anything. Now, I haven't checked since I did this video, which was like over a year ago. So for all I know, there might be something there now. Of course, now I'm thinking about that after I've already done the live stream. If I find a lot of information about that, I might just do another video on it and tie it back into this Frederick Johnson video. The Frederick Johnson video is still up because that information is all, fairly accurate. But I took down the Bones Under the Dance Hall video. Or I took down the video about the Riley Moss killing Naomi Moss because there was just too many inaccuracies, and I ended up not even being in the right spot. So it was like, if I want to do this video, I'll go to the right area and actually do it. I took the Bones Under the Dance Hall video down, but that is, again, with the plans of adding to it this new information I found to fully cover the whole story. So I'll probably still use a lot of the video from the original Bones Under the Dance Hall video. And if I end up only using a portion of that, I might put the original like on my Patreon for people to see as extra content for a video that's no longer available. I might just throw it on there for y'all that are supporting me there to see. And I've said this in the past, I am posting a lot more to my Patreon now that I'm gathering more and more people there, and I'm trying to reward those supporters the best way I can, which is more content. That includes a succession of recordings I've done. I go out and exercise in the backyard out here, and as I say in the recordings, to keep it from getting monotonous, getting my exercise walking the same dumb circle in my back or in the backyard, I record something and I reflect on a video I did, or reflect on a case that I've covered, or reflect on things in a way that allows me to add more to what I've already said in the video, so that I'm not just reciting something that was in another video. That's a good possibility. And don't go away. I hate how quickly the comments disappear. But Michelle, you just suggested looking into people who have disappeared in national parks. Now, I've kind of, because I've covered stuff where like people have disappeared like in Forest Park. I've covered stuff in this area, but I've watched a few videos, and it is interesting, stories about people who have disappeared in like the Cascade Range or in the, Mount Hood has lended itself to many a missing persons case. And I actually would be, and again, because I'm still looking into a lot of like missing persons, Jane Doe, John Doe type cases that have happened in Oregon, and obviously, people that go, especially big national parks, that is an environment that, again, like I just said, lends itself to people vanishing. And did I mention? I know that I have. But me and my girlfriend are going to be starting, I might as well just mention it here again, we're going to be starting a podcast at some point. Our first episode probably won't be till after the new year, but we are working on that. We already have a topic for the first episode, which may actually end up being more than one. See, I mean, you know me. You've seen how long my content gets. As long as we're keeping focused and we're talking about what needs to be talked about in a given episode, I don't care if the podcast episode is 20 minutes long. I don't care if it's 3 hours long. But if it does kind of start getting really long, we might split it into two. Like I'd like to follow a scenario where we kind of post our episodes on the same day of the week, especially if we try to do it weekly. But if it's a situation like that where it ends up being a really long episode that we want to break into two, I don't think we'll be too cold-hearted that we would make you wait a whole week before the part 2. We might put the, like, let's say we released the episodes on a Sunday. We might put the part 2 on a Wednesday. Because I already feel like this first episode is probably going to be pretty long. Again, I'm not telling you what it's about. You'll see when it gets here. I'm already doing a boatload of research on it, and it's a certain thing that me and my girlfriend already know a little bit about. And I've already downloaded a lot of information. I've downloaded some, peer-reviewed pieces about it, and it's a very dark subject matter. That will be my hint to you. Not that that's much of a hint, because a lot of stuff I talk about on my channel is dark. So that is coming along down the pike. We're going to start doing that. We're still in the very early stages. We don't have a name. We don't have a permanent setup as to where we're going to be when we do the episodes. And we have to look into, like, obviously we can create our own little thing to post the episodes on, but we'll also probably post the episodes in video form on YouTube. I know a lot of even small podcasts have managed to get onto places like Spotify. So if that's a possibility, we might pursue that. This is all stuff we have to look into and research before we make any rash decisions. But that's another. And again, it's a good thing to get into, especially during a time where I'm not going to be going out and exploring a whole lot in the coming months. So a lot of what I do is probably going to be more, any new videos I do are going to be more research based, as opposed to me going out and seeing the world over the next couple of months. And I still have a lot of videos forthcoming. I have the videos I've been doing recently that are collections of pictures I've taken. I still have at least like 7 or 8 more of those to come. I still have a bunch of random videos that I've done, between like August and now, that are still sitting there waiting, just waiting in line to kind of finally be. I did a video today that was actually the video I did today, which is I walked through the Foster floodplain, and then after meandering through it, I made it over to the the Brookside wetlands. They're both really nice, except Brookside unfortunately has, right on the other side of the creek, there was a massive homeless camp there, which is unfortunately, I mean, obviously I understand we have a major homeless issue in our city, but it's really stressful when you see so many homeless people living right next to a wetland, knowing that they're setting, even not like arson, but like setting fires, like to cook food and stuff. And I've been through places that are kind of woodsy and forested that like homeless people have lived in. You can see like burn marks on the ground that like you're like grateful that these didn't spread and cause big fires that destroyed everything. So yeah, so that went live today. There's still other stuff that I've already got done that's sitting there waiting to go live. I have a big project that I'm working on getting finished. I'm about 60% of the way done. There'll be actually, I think it's already gone live. If I mentioned on my Patreon, there's a series that I'm doing that has a connection to the Kennedy assassination, which I've been studying literally since I was 7 years old. I'm working on that. That'll probably go live sometime in January. I still have a bit of work to do on it. So January, maybe February, if it becomes a big enough hassle. There's still stuff forthcoming, even though I'm more or less restricted and restricting myself. So no worries there. So obviously I'm going to keep you all in the know, either through little short videos or individual posts. I'm going to let you know about the progress of my book, where you can find it, the progress of any other thing I write after that, and then of course when we finally start getting that podcast going. I'll be, of course, keeping you all in the loop on that. And I do have a fairly new Facebook page called Exploring Portland, because I got rid of my, I had a page that was just called Steve the Amateur Historian, and a lot of people were just using it as a spot to come and hassle me. Pretty much anybody who was like pissed about a video I did, they wouldn't just leave a comment in the YouTube video. They would they didn't go to my Instagram, which was listed. They wouldn't go to these other places. They always came right to my Steve the Amateur Story and Facebook to get really pissy. And it wasn't really growing, and I just got rid of it. And some time went by, and I was like, I would like there to be a Facebook presence of some kind for all the pictures and videos and all the stuff I've done related to Portland over the past couple of years. There should be still some Facebook presence. So I've already dumped quite a bit of stuff on there. I'm going to be dumping a lot more stuff on there. And a special shout out to Kim for helping that channel grow. It's always beneficial that when you start a Facebook page, you start having early growth. And friends of mine have peppered in, but I know you shared my page when it was fairly new. I think to your, did you share it to your, I saw it in my Facebook feed that you popped up and said that you shared it. And then I noticed right after that, like 15 people suddenly joined, and they all said we had one mutual friend. And I was like, okay, well, I know who that is. So that really did help get it growth out of the gate. And I know a lot of my friends on Facebook have started peppering in, and random people. A couple days ago, I got 4 new followers within a couple hours, and they were all from New York. So I was like, awesome. I'm getting people from the other side of the country coming in and joining in the fun. So I'm going to be posting there pretty regularly. One, because I want to and I want to help it grow, but another because I have so much stuff that I could post there. And then over time, in addition to the pictures and videos and whatnot that I do, I might share various links to things and things of that nature. If I post a picture about something that's really interesting, that's based on certain information I found at a certain site or a certain whatever, I might link that too, so that I can also be providing information that I found to both verify whatever I'm posting, but also give people information that they can go read if they so choose to. So that's also up there. I've started linking that in the description of my YouTube videos, along with my Instagram account and of course my Patreon. Which, if you haven't signed up for my Patreon, what is the matter with you? No, seriously. As I said before, I'm starting to post there more frequently to give people incentive to join, but also to give people who are making monthly donations the incentive to keep supporting me. I'm not just gonna like get a boatload of people, post 1 or 2 things on my Patreon, and then be like, all right, well, you're all joined, so I don't have to post anything anymore. I'm just gonna go take a nap now. Nope, that ain't how it works. So yeah, so I'm gonna be continuing to post things. I have a few random old videos that I never posted on my new, or at least my current YouTube channel, which is my second Steve the Amateur Historian channel. A few videos from the past, from my earlier days, that I'm gonna be posting to my Patreon. Some stuff that I just took down for an assortment of reasons I'm going to be posting there. And of course, a succession of these recordings, these amateur exercising podcasts I'm doing out in my backyard whenever I'm walking around. So there will be a lot of other stuff there. So that's about it. I think I covered a lot of stuff in this. I covered a lot of all these new things that have been happening recently. I felt a little wiped out, a little exhausted the past week, so I've been spending a lot of time on my phone thinking, how can I sit here and relax but also still be productive? So that's where some of these recent new things have come from. So a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff forthcoming, and I just wanted to bring y'all up to speed about what's going on in my life. And I'm going to manage to end this at like exactly an hour, which means I got to find a way to kill the next 30 seconds. Because I want this to be exact. It actually probably won't be exactly an hour, because when I glitched out earlier, I'll probably lose a little bit of video. So never mind. It was a good idea at first, but it's probably not going to work out. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. If you made it to the live stream and are watching it in person as it's happening right now, I appreciate it. If not, this will obviously be up on my channel at some point when my phone gets done processing it. So those of you that didn't get to see it can come on here and see some of the stuff I talk about. And all that said, I still gotta say, even in these live streams, if you haven't yet, remember to like these videos, share them if you so choose. That helps. Every time somebody has shared my video, a video I've done to you know, a Facebook group or online something or other, I always get a big spike in views. So that's why I always say share. Thank you for stopping by. And good night. It's not good night for me because my sleep cycle is chaos now. For me, this is essentially lunchtime right now. But anyway, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit up my Patreon. Good night to you. Good night to you as well. Good night to all of you. Thank you so much for stopping by. And till next time, as always, this has been Steve the Amateur Historian. Thanks for stopping by. Yes, I want to.